Once a cheater, always a cheater. Warning. Some audiences may find this content disturbing. View at your own discretion. Welcome to the House of Reddit. Today, we share 2 juicy r/NuclearRevenge stories from Reddit. Once a cheater, always a cheater. So I'd been on and off with this girl for a while. She was smoking hot, solid 9/10. Her and I just kind of clicked right off the bat and it felt very natural. She seemed pretty smart too, felt like I lucked out. Boy was I wrong. We were at the awkward friends but not friends stage for about half a year and then one night she drops the L-bomb. I'm totally cool with it too, let her know I feel the same way. We date for about a year. Then things get weird. I post some stupid cute comment on her Facebook picture, just trying to be sweet, and this dude comes in telling me I'm too slow on the draw and he's Prince Charming. Red flags now, this dude sounds pretty confident. Then we've been talking about stuff kind of confident. Confront her about it and she insists they are just friends, yeah, right, and they just started talking last month. I'm not stupid. Tell her either she cuts contact with him or I'm walking. She chooses the latter because he's a really great guy. Okay, whatever. I'll get over it. Just another woman hell-bent on wasting my time. About a month later she comes crying back and insists she loves me and we are meant to be together, and the guy was such a genital, he slept with her and bailed from what I understand. I know she's full of it, but on the off chance she's serious, I have her swear that she loves me and there's no going back this time. Enter Matt Vanguard. I set up a fake profile with a sizable library of handsome photos from random guy I found online. Then I add enough info and friends to make it believable, then add her and start chatting her up on this fake account. She swears left and right that this time is different. Meanwhile Matt is scoring her number and setting up a date. I had an alternative phone number thanks to Text Plus, free text and calling. I'm pissed. It takes a real heartless cunt to sit there confessing their love to someone they've been with a year and a half while simultaneously setting up a date with someone else they've never even met and know nothing about. Yeah, I'm definitely burning this shallow with to the ground. And I even did my best to make Matt sound like kind of an idiot and kind of an asshole. She dropped the babe word for example and Matt responded with, "Don't call me that again, got it? I'm not your babe." So she's going to school and takes the bus back and forth. I know her classes run pretty late, and buses don't run forever, you know? So Matt is going to pick her up after school in his super fancy car and take her on the most romantic date of her life, or at least that's what she thinks. He conveniently doesn't get off work until about an hour after she gets out of class. She says that's fine and she'll just study until Matt arrives. Meanwhile I'm asking her, as myself, if she wants to hang out and she says she has some extracurricular thing going on and her friend is going to give her a ride home. Ha ha ha, fuck you. So she hits up Matt. Her, "Hey, are you almost here? If not I have to take the bus because that's stop running soon." You can tell she's a little annoyed. He says, "Yeah, sorry, I had to do overtime. We were super busy tonight. I'm leaving now." Her, "Okay, can't wait to see you." Oh, you can. You can and you will. Time drags by. Matt is now an hour late, he's super apologetic and he's speeding to the school to go get her. I'll just pulled over. I shouldn't have been speeding but I felt bad for being late. Her, "Seriously? Wow. Well, get here as soon as possible." Time keeps ticking and she is pissed at that point. Matt is hours late. Finally I break the news. "Sorry, I don't go out on dates with lying whores." Her, "What? What are you talking about? This isn't Matt. This is Anon." Her, "You guys know each other?" "No. I set you up to see if you were still unfaithful, which? And you are." Then she has the nerve to tell me she wasn't actually going to meet up with him. Are you kidding me? Don't talk to me anymore. And I suggest you start walking. I think you missed your bus. Months go by and she hits me up. She's very apologetic and says the whole incident has been replaying in her mind. I tell her I appreciate it and I'm willing to be friends, but I have a girlfriend. I didn't, and even if I did, I wouldn't date her again. She says she understands. And the subject of our falling out comes up another day. She says her 3-hour walk of shame was the worst she's ever felt in her life. Good. It was the best I've ever felt in mine. I ruined my wife's reputation. Butthare and Sarah have been likely a family to my wife, and I for several years, practically ever since we moved in across the street from them. The 4 of us were extremely tight. Our kids are the same age as theirs and all good friends. We were one big family unit. We did dinner together a few times a week. We went on vacations together. I truly saw Butthare as a brother, and my wife and Sarah were very close too. 5 months ago, I was completely blindsided by the discovery of an affair between my wife and Butthare. My wife had left her email open on our computer, and I saw an email from her to her longtime therapist saying that Butthare would be joining her at an upcoming session again. What the hell? My mind started racing. Why in the world would Butthare be going to her therapist's sessions without my knowledge? I did a search and found some other emails too, and from the therapist proving that Butthare had been going to sessions together with her for about 6 weeks. I checked our mobile phone account and I discovered that, since late summer, they had been exchanging hundreds of texts every day, peaking at nearly 500 per day by the holidays. Speaking of the holidays, my wife and I hosted both of our families, parents, siblings, etc., for both Thanksgiving and Christmas dinner, and Butthare and Sarah joined us either for dinner or after dinner on both holidays. Text records showed that the entire time that they were at our house celebrating with our families, my wife and Butthare were texting each other across the room. They were doing that pretty much every time the four of us hung out, for months. And all day every day just in general. But what bothers me the most is that, they were doing it with Sarah and I right there. I confronted my wife with the evidence and she admitted that yes, she and Butthare had fallen in love. It just happened. I don't know. But I love him and I don't feel anything for you anymore, I'm sorry. They had gone on a school trip together, something had happened in her hotel room, and things had moved quickly from there. She explained, as I lay face down on the couch, unable to look at her, that they had already made plans to move on together immediately because of the kids. They'd probably do so eventually. The meeting with the therapist were supposedly mostly for the purpose of finding a way to break this to me and Sarah as gentle as possible, because they were so very concerned for our well-being. Sarah and I are fairly certain that they weren't planning on telling us about the affair at all, and were simply going to discover their feelings for one another. Several months down the line, after they'd come up with some other reason to divorce the two of us, my wife moved out 2 months ago. I was, and still am, utterly destroyed. I cry every day. I cried writing the first few paragraphs of this story now. I worry non-stop about the impact on our kids. But I am also not exactly a shrinking violet when I feel that I've been wronged, and in this case I was, objectively, very wronged. So a couple of years ago, Butthare ran for a Board of Education seat as a pretty extreme underdog. I helped him with his campaign materials and debate prep, and my wife, a well-known school district employee, this becomes important later, got the word out as best she could. Much to our surprise, he actually won in a squeaker, by just a few dozen votes. Being on the board became the center of Butthare's world. He joined every committee that he could. This turned into the foundation of his affair with my wife, as they were constantly going to school events and meetings together on evenings and weekends. Once I discovered the affair, my thoughts turned pretty quickly to revenge, and it occurred to me that an extramarital affair between a member of the Board of Education and an employee of the school district was at least bad politics and possibly violated district policy. Making things far worse for them was that my wife was in the running for an open administrative position, and everyone knew that she was more or less guaranteed the job and the major pay raise that came with it. She had just finished her master's degree in school administration, at the urging of her principal and the superintendent so that she could be promoted to this specific position. I had plenty of evidence of the affair, texts from both of them admitting to it, text records showing that they were texting hundreds of times a day, emails to and from the therapist, etc. I considered simply emailing all of the evidence to the board and the superintendent, but felt like I, as the grieving, betrayed spouse, might not be seen as a credible source. So instead, I invented a fictitious furious friend who was planning on showing up to the next board meeting, and publicly shaming the two of them for their affair. I told my wife that I'd tried to talk this person down but couldn't guarantee that they wouldn't show up and humiliate them publicly. As I expected, this led Butthare to conclude that the only option was for him to primitively admit the affair to the board. The superintendent subsequently recommended that Butthare resign, which he did. Sarah said that he was utterly humiliated and crushed, and barely got out of bed for a few days afterward. Once word of the affair and Butthare's resignation started getting around, the superintendent, a longtime friend of both my wife and Butthare, contacted my wife, and tearfully informed her that it was no longer politically appropriate for her to be promoted to an administrative position within the district. The position that had been lined up for her was later filled by an outside candidate. This sent waves of confusion and rumor throughout the district, as it was pretty well known that my wife was getting the job. The day after she was informed that she wasn't getting the promotion, my wife and I, despite our crumbling marriage, took our son out to breakfast together on his birthday, and a parent stopped by our table to congratulate her on her new role. She said thanks, then excused herself to go cry in the bathroom for a while. I let the dust settle for a couple of weeks, and then, right before my wife moved out, let them in on little secret there was never a furious friend threatening to expose them in the first place. Just me. Word of all this has gotten around our fairly small town, which Butthare grew up and my wife has worked in for nearly 20 years. My wife refuses to talk to me about how things are at work now, but I've heard from some people I know in the district that her spotless reputation has taken a major hit. Butthare, formerly a gregarious social presence in our neighborhood and at events and pubs in town, has completely gone underground and barely emerges to mow his lawn. He's moving out soon. To a little townhouse which is all he can afford due to all the child support he's going to have paid his wife. My wife and Butthare claim that they plan on trying to make things work together, despite all the public humiliation. I wish them lots of luck with that. I'm sure it will be a lot of fun to show their faces together in town. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any suggestions for future videos, please let us know in the comments below. Turn on the notifications to know when we post new videos. Thank you for coming to the House of Reddit.